Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show! And tonight is my spoiler review of Thunderbolts, the New Avengers. This was really good. I will say it's definitely going to be up there with some of my favorite films of the multiverse saga. Because recently, a rough ride for the Marvel films. But this one I think is a step in the right direction. I really hope that it continues for like the Fantastic Four and more films to come. This brought me back to why I enjoyed watching Marvel films. This film had so much emotion and a really good story, and also had the humor, and it actually worked. It blended really well with this film. And I really enjoyed seeing these kind of C-tier anti-heroes of the MCU rise up and save the day. And they work so well as a team. They're definitely, as good as the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they still have, they're very much issues that they're all dealing with, but they come together to stop a bigger threat, and they definitely work really well together. The character to me that really shines in this film is Elena. They're really well explored in this film, and you can really kind of show that they're kind of exploring the feeling of being, lost without purpose, loneliness. And one thing I really enjoyed about this film is that it explores humanity. And it shows kind of what mental health can do to a person, those feelings of loneliness, depression, and how they can bring you down. And I really enjoyed how this family can come together and they all help each other in a way. That is so well done. And I really enjoyed the final confrontation between Bob and the Void. And they're just attacking each other, but it's really kind of how you're fighting against the darker side that mental health can bring to you and how it can really bring you down. And I gotta say, it's one of the best explorations of kind of talking and how hugging can stop the bad guy or the bad thoughts coming through. It's really well done. It's not kind of, cheap or anything. It's so well done. As they all come together and hug Bob to stop the Void. Great scene. Elena is definitely my favorite character. They shine in this film, and they have some really amazing scenes, especially with Bob. Now, the one thing I can say is a little tiny critique. There's not many that I have for this film, but it is Taskmaster. They're kind of just wasted in this film. They're just one of Valentina's agents that are sent to this mountain place to basically stop the other members of the Thunderbolts, and that's it. And then they're just stopped by Ghost. That's their whole scene. And they're in all this marketing, and yeah, they're not really a Thunderbolt. And I would have actually really enjoyed seeing more of Taskmaster and what they could bring to this film, but nope, we don't get that. Now, I will say, the practicality that they did in this film was really impressive. There's a lot of good practical effects, and it felt a lot more real than just using CGI. So I really applaud that, and I really enjoyed when Elena went into the Void, and there's some really great camera work, and how they have to break through all these scenes that really bring up some really tragic emotions and realities for Elena. They did great with that. And Sentry is a really good kind of villain. As they kind of overwhelm themselves, they become this Void that takes over the city. And that was one of the greatest kind of showings of how much destruction this kind of power brings, is when Red Guardian saves that little girl, and then they just void it away. That was so... I knew that was coming, kind of, but boy, it was still just wow. But yeah, I think, though, that's why I really enjoyed this film, is it just felt really mature. And it wasn't afraid to explore all of these kind of issues that bring up with mental health, depression and loneliness, and how it can really affect people. And how family can really help you and bring you back to kind of a reset. And it's really interesting with Bob that they don't remember anything with Sentry and the Void. They kind of just blip out of their mind. Now, Valentina was a really interesting character in this film, because they are kind of the villain. They're doing things kind of behind the scenes and all that. And I really did enjoy at the end how they basically used all this to say, look, the New Avengers. And I really enjoyed Elena just being like, we own you now. That was great. But yeah, overall, Thunderbolts is a really well done film. I would highly recommend it if you have not watched it. It has some really great character work, like with John Walker, really exploring their rise and fall and how that really affected them and their whole family. We also get some amazing scenes with Bucky. They are really back in this film, and I really enjoyed watching that action scene in the desert. That was really good. I forgot to mention Ghost. They were such a forgettable character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, but here they have some really great scenes, and they really blend well with this kind of new MCU kind of team. What did you all think of Thunderbolts, the New Avengers? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.